From the Civil War to the Jazz Age, documentarian Ken Burns tells the stories of American history with his award-winning films. His latest project challenges all of us to learn the Gettysburg Address by telling the story of an all-boys boarding school in Vermont where students with learning disabilities, or differences rather, memorize and publicly recite the famous speech.
I thought I was done with the Civil War, that was 1990, 24 years ago, but I live in a tiny village in New Hampshire and make all the films up there, and across the river in Putney, Vermont is this tiny school, the Greenwood School, where every year for the 35 years the school's been in existence. They've challenged their boys who have these learning differences to memorize and then most importantly publicly recite the Gettysburg Address. Now this would be a tough task for any of us, and many of us also have a kind of stage fright that would make it difficult, but these kids have that plus all this other stuff heaped on them, and yet they do it. And it was so inspiring. I had tears running down my cheek when I was asked to be a judge 10 years ago, and I said, we got to make a film. So we embedded ourselves a couple years ago for 3 months and then edited down 320 hours of footage into an hour-and-a-half portrait that's set against the context of the United States and the existence of slavery, with the country bragging that they're proclaiming that all men are created equal. That's the Declaration. That's what Lincoln's referring to when he says 77 years ago. He means back then when we started, that guy Thomas Jefferson, when he wrote all men are created equal, he owned more than 100 human beings and didn't see the contradiction, didn't see the hypocrisy, and more important, didn't free them. Well, Lincoln freed them, and then was saying at the site of the worst battle ever fought on American soil, 10,000 dead, you know, we can go forward from this. We can have, as he said, a new birth of freedom. And so it's like the Declaration of Independence 2.0. Wow. And that's the operating system we still operate under. I mean, when the first anniversary of 9/11 came, that's what they spoke. They didn't give contemporary speeches. They read the Gettysburg Address because that was medicine, that's glue. So for these kids, it's a huge thing. And as we're watching it, we're going, wait a second, we're making this film about them to celebrate the Gettysburg Address, 150 years old, and also to celebrate the enormous challenge and therefore inspiration that these kids give us. But if they can do it, we all can do it. Why couldn't we do something together? And we're all so independent free agents with our phones and our tablets, and we forget how to cohere. So we have a site called learntheaddress.org. We've gotten all the living presidents to recite it. We've gotten dozens of celebrities from Taylor Swift to Usher to Steven Spielberg to Bill Gates to lots of politicians and folks in media. Ariana has read it. Yeah. We've had a lot of people who've done it, and then we challenged everyone else to do it. And if you go to that site, learntheaddress.org, you'll see thousands of your fellow citizens who've actually memorized it and uploaded it. A father and daughter memorizing it and going into the rocks of Gettysburg, all that sort of stuff. It's really, really cool.
As someone who has covered baseball so extensively, what do you think of Derek Jeter's retirement tour, and what do you think his legacy will be?
Well, the retirement tour gets to me a little bit tired and fatigued, because this is a game, it's not like football, it's 162 games, so there's, you got to retire a lot of times at a lot of different ballparks. I don't begrudge him that, because the most important part of it is the question about legacy. And Derek Jeter immediately puts himself into a Mount Rushmore that has Babe Ruth, that has Lou Gehrig, has Joe DiMaggio, and Mickey Mantle.
Am I the only one? And full disclosure, Ken is a Red Sox fan, so take everything he says about Derek Jeter and the Yankees with a grain of salt.
No, I am more qualified to see Derek Jeter, and you should see our 10th inning of baseball, because we did justice to him and understood who he was and got to appreciate who he was. I mean, just because you're a dyed-in-the-wool Red Sox fan doesn't mean you can't appreciate when a real Yankee comes along.
Well played, sir. Being a real Yankee is interesting, because
what is a real Yankee? Does that mean you got bought, or you, like Derek Jeter?
Right, it means you weren't drafted by them.
Mariano Rivera, Jorge Posada, you're homegrown. Then I give you all the props you deserve.
Right.
But tell me, if you just came on for that 1 year or 2 year contract, I don't see you a Yankee. I just see you somebody borrowing some pinstripes for a year.
Wow, this reminds me of Field of Dreams, of Bull Durham, Tin Cup, Love of the Game. It really did. It kind of, those movies all jumped out at me, because even though I like sports, I don't think they necessarily make a great sports movie.